Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. And today I get to sit with my friend Philip Pelto, who is an owner. He's the owner of Firestorm, and his LinkedIn says he's the Chief Connection Officer. Welcome to the show, Philip.
Thanks for having me.
You like Phil better, right?
Yeah, Phil is
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So welcome to the show, Phil. And please, introduce yourself and tell us what you're passionate about.
Awesome. Well, like you said, my name's Phil, and I'm a husband, a father, a runner, an adventure seeker, an entrepreneur, and I'm passionate about living life to the fullest. I really I try and make it out outside as much as I can, and being in the mountains. Whether that's climbing or running or camping or whatever. I like doing that stuff. I like exploring the world and nature, and doing that with my wife and my son. And yeah, and then obviously the work side of things too. But they all kind of blend together. But doing that with people that are important to you is really important.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So you're passionate about adventure and then entrepreneurship, right? So I guess that's the entrepreneurship and owning your own company is part of how you satisfy that craving for adventure in your regular life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it goes along with the adventure seeking part of things, like, going off on an uncharted course and, you don't know what's going to happen and how to figure it out. And it's one of the most frustrating, but also the most exhilarating parts of being an entrepreneur is there's no playbook. I don't get to show up and say like, okay, I'm gonna read this book and follow this guide and da da da, and then it works out. That's just not how it is. So sometimes I wish it was like that, but
I
it's
know.
it's fun to figure out everything, and every day is a new challenge, and there's all sorts of problems to be solved, and yeah, I like knowing that I'm going to sink or swim of my own accord and not based on anybody else.
Were you always adventurous or did something happen to make you realize that about yourself?
I mean, I grew up. I'm a one of those Zennials, like I'm born in 1980, so there was not a lot of supervision, and we grew up kind of in the country, and just got to run around a lot, and was leave the house in the morning, and maybe you come back for a snack in the afternoon, but definitely be home for dinner, and in the meantime, you just run around and explore and do your thing. And I remember, I mean, back to first grade doing that, and
Man.
yeah, so I was just kind of a feral child.
Yeah. Dude, are you like that as a dad? Or like did you balance it out? Like
No,
what
I'm totally like that, and I want to encourage more of it. I'm actually, we live in the burbs right now, and I'm trying to get out into the mountains where I can get more space and just send him on his way, and I don't have to worry about him, getting hit by a car, some stupid thing like that. But yeah, it's an important thing to me to just be able to go out and explore and figure things out on your own. And you come up with all these crazy ideas. I think it helps creativity a lot. You see a tree or a group of trees, and you're like, oh, we could like put a fort here, and let's go find some supplies to try and figure out how to build this thing. And you come up with all sorts of nutty ideas when you're out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's so cool. Now how does that then factor in, right? So well, and what's your son? It sounds like you have a son, or how
Yeah,
many
yeah,
kids
yeah.
you have?
Just one. Yeah, one son.
How old's your son?
He'll be 4 in a few weeks.
Yeah, is he like you?
Yeah, probably more than I like. More than my wife likes for sure too.
Feral dad, feral child.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
We his first birthday, we took him to the ocean. My wife grew up in Seattle, and she wanted to take him to see the ocean, and he got out there and just plopped down face first in the sand and started eating sand. And I was like, okay, that checks out. And then his first camping trip, he was only 6 weeks old. And same deal. Like he just, I mean, he was 6 weeks, so he couldn't really do anything. But as soon as he could crawl around, face in the dirt, eating stuff, and
Yeah.
it's been amazing.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. Well, I love that, and I can see the value and the benefit, right? Because so then you get a sense for I can do things, right? I can do things no by myself without anybody helping me. And we're not it's harder to raise up kids that way today, with the way things are in our culture. A lot of overparenting that happens.
Yeah.
definitely guilty of some of that. My own self,
Me too. Me too.
yeah. Although I do wrestle with these things. So I wonder then, what's the biggest lesson you learned out there as a kid? Growing up in that way. What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned?
Um, I don't know. I think it's just that sense of play and the exploration, and there's not any limits on anything. You can come up with some crazy idea and make it happen. And I enjoyed the freedom of that, and sort of the color outside the lines and do whatever you want and figure out what you're gonna, do. So that was the biggest thing. And then obviously doing it with, a group of people that you enjoy. I didn't have a big group of friends. I had a tight knit group, but those were people that you wanted to like hang out with on a regular basis and go explore with.
Yeah, yeah, man. So. Yeah, I love it. So I think I'm looking at I'm trying to look up your superpower quest, because I think you're a dreamer leader. I think that's what you put.
Yeah.
Which again checks out with what you're describing, right? The idea of unhindered play and imagination and being able to kind of figure stuff out for yourself. That's a lot of dreamer talk right there.
Yeah. And I was fiercely independent and, kind of a know-it-all from the jump.
Yeah.
My favorite story when I was a kid was, two things. One was in kindergarten, my mom was late for picking me up, and I don't know how late, but it was to the point where I decided it was too much, and I decided to start walking home, which was a 3-mile walk, and I was 5, and I knew the way, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to walk home. And she caught me about a mile into the walk. And then the second time was I was in first grade, and I had a disagreement with my teacher about nap time, actually. And so I just got up and grabbed my bag and left, and I just walked out of school, walked home. It was like that school was closer, so it was only like 3 blocks to my house. And I just walked home. My mom was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm not going back. You need to homeschool me." And so she homeschooled me for first grade.
That was the moment then, huh? Like
Yeah.
she was like, "All right, fine.
Yep.
I guess we're not doing that anymore."
Yeah.
That's wild, dude. Oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, but it does show. It shows something about you, right? Like you're a go-getter, and you value freedom. You value your freedom and autonomy. So, and it looks like you're leader nurturer. That's what you put. I think you probably have high dreamer too, but leader nurturer. Which, man, that combo is so cool, man. Because it's like you can lead and galvanize people and assemble them towards a vision, but then you're also not going to lose sight of the individual. You take care of people. You love people well. You legitimately, authentically care for people well. That's probably why you got folks that are just so loyal. Like Nate loves you, bro.
Yeah. It's been awesome to have him on the team, and his 10-year anniversary with Firestorm is coming up July 1st.
Dude.
And yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, it's been awesome.
So then tell me about the journey, that childhood and up into owning your own business and owning Firestorm, and then you can get into that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that was a big influence on what I do now and getting into sales was we moved around a lot. I was like kind of joke around and say I was like an army brat without the army. So parents got divorced when I was young, and there were a couple houses prior to the divorce and a couple after. But I think I moved 8 times before I graduated high school. And so jumping into a new school, you either turn into a wallflower and you don't have any friends, or you suck it up and go introduce yourself and say hi to people and all that. So I didn't have a huge group of friends, like I said, but it was tight knit, and they were good. But I had to go out and make those friends in a lot of different scenarios, different cities, different schools, and that sort of I didn't know it at the time, but that helped me get over that, fear of rejection or whatever that a lot of people have. And then in high school, when I was 16, I got into sales. Prior to that, I had, I just kind of hustled for whatever I needed. Like my parents, they did the best they could. My mom I have 3 younger brothers, and, she didn't have a job. And so she was living on child support and some government assistance. So I didn't have a lot extra, and we had all the necessities taken care of. But if I wanted to like get candy or Mountain Dew or something like that, I had to go figure out how to do that on my own.
Yeah.
So from I think it was second grade, might have been third grade. I started selling crap in school. I don't.
You said crap, not crack.
Right, yeah, with a P. uh, I don't know where I got this connection, but I had a hookup for fireworks. And so I had like firecrackers, little ladyfingers, and smoke bombs, and all this stuff. Oh, and then there were stink bombs. And back in the day, they had them in little glass vials, and you'd like smash them on the ground, and they smelled like rotten eggs. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where I got all that stuff. But I started getting it and selling it on the playground at school. And that actually bought me my first trip in a cop car, which I think was in fourth grade. And multiple trips to the principal's office. But anyway, it's just out of necessity. You got to figure out how to make it work. And so I just did what I had to do, and sold all this stuff, and started to get candy and pop. And I think, again, going back to that, like very like independent, and I need something, I'm going to go get it and make it happen. And I just never stopped doing that. So
yeah. So I'm gonna take you on a small tangent before we go back to the larger narrative.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek, you familiar with him?
Yeah.
The next book he's writing is on friendship.
Okay.
Did you know that? And
I did not.
Like the importance of friendship. He's like, it's really deep. You sound like a person who knows how to be a good friend. What makes a good friend to you?
So I think I'm in tune with what other people need or want out of a relationship. And, it's like the golden rule is treat everybody the way you want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat everybody the way they want to be treated. And so all this like love language stuff and figure out how other people want to be communicated with, that's something I just did sort of intrinsically from a early age. I honestly have no idea where it came from, but I definitely understand how other people want to be dealt with, and I try and match that and give them what they need. And then there's no generic approach to any relationship. You've got to, everybody needs something different, and you got to be different with each person. And so, kind of tuning in on all that stuff. And I think I was decent at it up until, my high school days. And then when I got into sales, I started to learn about it, and then I got even better. And then obviously it's the only thing I've ever done so professionally. So,
right.
That's, helped a lot.
Yeah. So the way to be a good friend is to be in tune with what people need and the way they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And give it to them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, you get in a situation where, you're giving too much, and people aren't reciprocating. And, that's a hard lesson or a hard spot to be in. And you've got to make some assessments about, am I willing to continue down this path when I know I'm not going to get anything out of it? And that's a tough conversation and a tough, internal, dialogue to have with yourself. But there's definitely times where you're like, okay, this is not going to go anywhere, and they're not reciprocating. But I think, when you're in tune with that kind of stuff, you tend to seek out people that are similar, that will go out of their way to, help you out and to reciprocate in the communication styles and all that stuff. But I mean, it's rare, man.
It is rare. Yeah. I call that a spirit of generosity. I look for that in people that I work with, in people that I, do life with, in friendships. I look for that, that spirit of generosity.
Yeah.
Because like especially you as a nurturer, right? Like that's what I hear and I see and I notice is that if you have that particular superpower, the downside is you can get burned pretty hard.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, because you care.
Sure. Yeah.
Care about people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, cool. So now we'll get back on the big picture. Like, in that book, man, like I heard Simon Sinek talk about it, and he's talking about how so many of society's issues and problems actually could be solved by good, hearty friendship, like
Yeah.
understanding how to be friends with each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so much so that he feels like there's a book that needs to be written about it. That's
That's
pretty
awesome.
stinking cool.
I love it.
Um, so, so yeah, talk me up until, what were the lessons you learned and the events that precipitated you founding Firestorm?
All right. So, I get a job in sales when I was 16, and I was cold calling on the phone. I was selling chimney and furnace cleaning. And so I got really good at just a lot of reps, smile and dial. And I got really good at, memorizing a script and, doing all this basic sales stuff. And then I got a job selling Cutco knives, and they taught us about, referrals. And they're like, we only work on referrals. You're going to go do in-home appointments, but you start with your warm market and then you get referred outside of that. And it was especially important for me because I was poor. Like none of my warm market really could afford what I was selling. So I started there, but I was like, hey, you guys got to hook me up and like give me referrals. So I really latched onto that referral thing, and they were really good at teaching how to do that. I latched onto it, got excellent at it, and then taught a bunch of other people how to do that. So that was kind of the beginnings where I understood, the value of referrals and how much more efficient and effective they were than the cold calling. And then I started an office. I, recruited and trained kids how to sell. I think I recruited 1,100 kids, and built a pretty significant sales team with Cutco. And then, I started to look for ways. So I got another job. After that, I was selling copiers, and then I sold suits for Tom James. And I was trying to figure out how to sort of build a machine that would give me referrals, right? Like I was good at sitting down and asking somebody one-on-one for referrals, but I wanted those to just show up without me sitting down and asking for them. And so I started to kind of get into the whole networking thing, and I went to another group, and I saw how they were doing it. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This is like great basic stuff. And I made a couple of suggestions. I was like, hey, if we did this different, that different, tweak this a little bit, it could be a lot more effective. And they were like, nah, we're good, man. Which, I respect, like it's your thing. But I'm like, I'm just going to go over here and do this myself. So it was 2006, and I started Firestorm just not as a business idea. I wasn't planning on growing this thing as an organization. I was just doing it to control my own prospecting efforts, and I knew if I got the right people in the room and I educated them and I built this relationship, they were just going to constantly send me deals, which worked out to be really good. So I think at that point in '06, I was getting 85% of my deals, from Firestorm and the small group that we had. And
And what are you selling at that time? At that time, what are you selling?
I was selling suits.
Suits. Okay.
Yeah. So like custom clothing. And so that was '06. I was doing the suit thing through the beginning of '09. And in '09, I actually got fired from the suit job. And the '08 crash happened, and there was a bunch of craziness that, I went to Arizona, came back, and whatever. But in March of '09, I decided to, I'm like, what am I going to do? How do I move on from this? And I'm like, do I do commercial real estate? Do I go project management? Do I go back to school? Da, da, da. And then I'm like, oh, Firestorm. I've been doing this thing for a minute. That sounds really exciting. And so I did that. And so it's been kind of full time since 2009.
Dang, dude. All right. Yep. So tell me about Firestorm, how it works, scale. I think you got 200 members at this point, paid members.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
Yep. Okay.
So it's a networking organization. Bottom line is I'm trying to help people get more sales from referrals. And the way that we go about doing that is organizing events and meetings. I built a curriculum. There's an education process behind it. And it's really just to help people understand, who are your ideal clients, who are good strategic partners for you. How do you help people understand how to identify a good prospect or a good opportunity when they're in front of it. And then you kind of put all that together, make sure that the meetings they're there to help people stay top of mind. Again, there's an education component to it. There's a, face-to-face, like, hey, I need to see you on a regular basis, stay top of mind. And then there's a software that I built to kind of put it all together and package it together neatly. But it really, at the end of the day, it's, we're business development oriented, trying to help small business owners get more sales from referrals. So our target market is small business owners between 0 and 3 million in revenue. That's probably 70% of our business. And then the other 30% is salespeople for larger organizations. So there's like, banks, E&T Credit Union. There's, the Insperities of the world, PEO companies. So there's a contingent of salespeople. And the thing everybody has in common, whether they're the small business owner or the salesperson, is everybody is selling into other small and medium-sized businesses, kind of 0 to 100 million in revenue, I would say. That's a lot of trusted advisors, a lot of people that are have a good relationship. It's not a transactional thing. They're people that, work with their clients on a regular basis and will listen to advice from them. So, yeah.
So here's a point of contrast. All right. So you said you would go to these networking events and you would give them ideas for like, okay, if you would just try this. Can you tell me some of those things that you do that the traditional networking group doesn't do?
Yeah, for sure. So in a traditional networking group, and this is the thing that I kind of hated the most when I started out was there's a high incentive and sort of pressure to just send a lead. It's a quantity over quality thing. And that's fine if you're in a certain type of business. When I was selling Cutco, that would have been great. Like, I don't care who you give me as a name. Like, that's a lead for me. And I'm going to call them and I'm going to treat it like any other cold call. But it's not a referral. Like, they didn't tee it up for me and make this nice introduction and say, like, oh, hey, Johnny's in the market for a new set of knives. Like, you should call him. They just reach into a fishbowl and pull out a bunch of business cards and like, here's a bunch of names. So that's one of the biggest pet peeves I have with, the traditional approach is it's a quantity over quality thing. And they're just trying to, get people a bunch of, contacts. And that doesn't really help me. And especially in if you're selling something that's more complicated, or, a SaaS product, or, you're an attorney, or you're, some sort of CPA that specializes in a certain, it's like, I don't want a bunch of leads. That's just going to waste my time. You're going to piss off your friend. I'm going to look like an idiot when I call them. And there's no relationship there. There's no understanding of, product market fit here. And that's kind of, the traditional approach. So we solve that by focusing much more on the quality over the quantity, making sure that we have these deep relationships where we understand, is this actually going to go anywhere? Like, if I send you an introduction, there's a reason for it. I've thought through it. I probably talked to the other person first and said, hey, can I introduce you to Johnny? And then I'll send an email that's like a couple of paragraphs that says, hey, here's why I'm introducing you guys. Here's what you can do for you. Here's what you can do for you. And then you guys should meet and connect. So that kind of thoughtful approach to things. And again, that's something that our software that I built kind of helps with. But that's one of the main things that we try and solve for is the making sure that there's some sort of need there. And we only make introductions when there's an opportunity.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a transactionality, right? And Nate talked about this too when I interviewed him. There's in the traditional way of doing it. There's a transactionality. Like, that's the quantity over quality thing, right? It's like, I don't necessarily care about you. I'm meeting a quota.
Yeah.
Or I'm responding to pressure.
Yep.
Or why am I here if I'm not going to give people leads? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, which makes sense. It's your DNA is to care for people, right? Can I actually help you? And what you're trying to do is cultivate that spirit in other people. Can we actually help each other?
Right.
And that to me is radically different.
Yeah. And it's challenging because it takes so much more effort to do that, and it takes a lot more time. It takes a lot more understanding of the situation. And it's not gonna happen overnight. And it also, you're not gonna run into really viable opportunities, every day. So, I think the other way is a lot easier, and but it's not more efficient or effective.
So let me tell you something. With your big beard and Nate's big beard, y'all kind of strike me as kind of like Viking dudes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, is there any sense in which this feels like building a tribe for you?
Yeah. 100%. Yes. I don't know that I don't know if the intent of that question is to say, like, um, I want like-minded people in the
Yeah.
sense that we are here to do business, and we want to do business in a certain way. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care what you look like, what your religious beliefs are, what color you are. None of that shit. What I care about is how you treat your customers, how you approach your business. Are you a relationship oriented person? And if that's all in alignment, absolutely. Like our core values are kind of the first filter for weeding people out. And those are just really basic business stuff. It's like show up, work and follow the program and help each other win. We're here to like be a community that's going to help each other grow, both personally and professionally. Continuous improvement through, or, personal excellence through continuous improvement. And then positive mental attitude. Those are like our 5 core values. And if you check the box,
can you say those again before you go on?
Absolutely. So number 1 is show up. Number 2 is work and follow the program. Number 3 is help each other win. Number 4 is personal excellence through continuous improvement. And number 5 is positive mental attitude. So if you check those boxes, we're cool, man. Like, I want you to be in our tribe, and I want you to learn how to do business this way, because going out and building relationships with people, I mean, this is going to become so much more important. I just, Mark Cuban tweeted out something last week or the week before, and basically was like, in 3 years, there's going to be so much AI video out there, AI everything, that we are legitimately not going to be able to tell what's real and what's not. And it's going to drive people to these face-to-face interactions again. And so events and in-person meetings and, these personal relationships that you have with people are going to become so much more valuable. And that's really what we're trying to do. So
I think you're right. Like everything that I'm seeing, like the world is changing super fast, and it's going to be, I think, kind of unrecognizable sooner than we think. Like I'm already like looking at stuff on YouTube and being like, is this real or is this not? And sometimes I can't tell.
Crazy, dude.
Sometimes it takes a while to figure it out. Like, and so I'm like, okay, we're headed to a place where you can't trust your eyes anymore.
Yeah.
And we're not used to that. We're used to being able to trust our eyes. And so nobody wants to be spending a bunch of time with a robot that they think is a freaking human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's the big reveal. Like that was a robot you were texting with for 6 months.
Yeah. And I mean, even like social media content, like there's some really amazing AI videos, and it's like, that's entertaining. It's cool, but like, I don't want to spend any time or mental and emotional energy in communicating with this thing.
Humanity matters.
Yeah,
Like,
it's going to become more and more important.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and people are going to need. And part of what Simon Sinek was saying is that in this world of increasing technological, mediation between humans and structure around humans, people are losing the basic skills of being a friend, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Actually knowing how to show up for somebody else, or how to care about somebody else, because my echo chamber is telling me I'm the most important thing in the world.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's a great point. And super scary.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But part, to the point, Firestorm is the kind of thing that people really need. So I see 2 elements of this. One is, as far as I am intuiting a couple of elements of how Firestorm works. One is curated community. So it's not for everybody, right? The person that's going to come in and be transactional and like just wants to talk and sell their stuff to the group, that person's not going to make it past the core principles.
Right.
Right. You want to, I think, generous a generous spirit, generous hearted people. That's what you're looking for to some degree. But then also people that are about business that are going to work the system. So curated community is one piece I see. And then the other piece is education, helping people learn how to understand each other. And to some degree, man, I don't know if this is like I picked up early, you know how to be a good friend. Are you teaching people through the system how to be good friends to each other? Is that some of what's going on, or am I overstepping with that?
I wouldn't say you're overstepping. There's definitely elements of that, right? Because being in a relationship with somebody, whether it's business or personal, is very similar. It's the skills are transferable. It's the same stuff. Now, whether or not people take it that next step and actually turn it into a friendship, I'm not here to like try and force anybody to be friends, but sure. I will tell you, like you spend enough time with people, get to know them on a personal level, which we do. You become friends with those people, and those are the people that I want to be hanging around. I think there used to be this separation between business and personal life, and you'd like go to the office and you do your thing and you'd come home, you'd be a totally different person, and they never touched. And I just don't think that that's realistic anymore. Some of these young kids, the Zennials, I see maybe a attempt to return to that, but it's so intertwined, like social media, the electronic communication, anything, stuff like this, we're not in the same room together. And it's not that easy to keep them separate, because my life is out public, and I go running and I bump into people that I see from work, or if you're posting stuff on the internet, I can't tell you, I'm nobody. I'm literally like nobody on social media or anything, but I get people that come up to me and are like, "Hey, what's up, Phil? How you doing?" And I'm like, who are you? And it's like they know me or something. So anyway, I really think that it just kind of blends together. You've got to be okay with that. You've got to, and I want to do business with people that, are cool and I like, and I want to, do business with my friends, and then you can go travel with them and write it off. There's all sorts of, benefits to having them intertwined. But it's an interesting deal.
It does sound like you're teaching people through the structure. And I understand, you can't make people friends, but the fact that you have a deep understanding of how to be a good friend and how to nurture community, how to nurture people.
Yeah.
And that's part of what is going right. Like the owner and the founder, part of who they are trickles into any organization.
100%.
And that's what makes the organization good is that to some degree. And so I can picture you're helping equip people to think past transactionality and into this realm of relationality, which is foreign maybe to the prior, the older generation. They equate sales with ABC, always be closing, sell to my own mom, what matters is you get the contract, however you can get the contract. And that's not really how people are on track to be selling in the new world. It's definitely more relational.
It is, yeah. And I think that's such a necessity to have that relationship with people. And, I've seen it work out time and time again where, you're in a competitive situation and, there's a request for proposal, or you got to go bid something, or, there's all this, red tape to get through. And, you got to do that, check the box. But honestly, if you're going into a RFP situation and you don't know who the favorite is when you go into it, it's not you.
Yeah.
These things still come down to relationships and people that, have some sort of personal connection, and people want to help their buddies out. And, maybe that's not the right thing, but it's like, hey, rather than fight the system, learn how to do it. And build these relationships.
Yeah. Learn how to be friendly, right? And learn that you don't have to be fake. Also, right, there's a way you can do this where you don't have to go be a fake person 100%. Pretending to want relationships when really all you want is contracts.
You'll see that immediately. We get people like that come around, and it's blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be that. But then again, that would make sense why not everybody's a fit for your group.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you would have to be the kind of person that can hold those things in tension. Like I actually do want to be friends and be friendly, right? And I actually do want to build relationships. And I do prioritize relationship over getting the contract or getting the deal. You actually have to be able to have that kind of go. You familiar with the Go Giver?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Bob Berg.
do you know I interviewed Bob Berg not too
Did
long
you?
ago?
Nice.
Yo,
That's
dude, it was
awesome.
great. It was amazing. He's one of my heroes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like that, but that book is basically the business case for an others focus, right? So in other words, I care more about bringing value to other people than I care about getting compensation for myself. It's not that I don't care about being compensated, but I
Yeah.
care more about giving value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the higher that gap is between the value that I give and the compensation that I receive, um, the more is going to just naturally come to me.
Yep. Yeah. It's counterintuitive. And I think a lot of times people, they're looking for that equilibrium. I give you this and you give me that. And, I'm putting in this much effort, so therefore I should get this much out of it. And it doesn't work like that, and you've got to put a lot more into those relationships, make these, relational deposits into the bank account. And it's, you're not going to see any return immediately. I can't remember who the quote is from, but it's, do more than what you are paid, and then you'll be paid more than what you do. There's a tipping point there. But it doesn't come for a really long time. Like, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've seen people try and fail, and then do it the right way, and they crush it. So
Yeah. Can you give me one or two success stories? And this could be Firestorm or just personal in terms of how you've been able to leverage this mechanism of relational connection,
yeah,
with some structure around like how to educate each other and who's facing similar prospects and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear just what how have you seen it work in a tangible way?
All right, I'll give you two. One on a business side and one on a personal side. So business side, our golden chapter here in Colorado. This is maybe 5 or 6 years ago or something. Commercial real estate agent had a deal, and he got introduced to this person. It was an out of town company. They were coming from California to Colorado. They needed to set up operations here as kind of a quick deal. He got introduced from one of his strategic partners. It was not actually in Firestorm. It was a different one, but it was a referral. He gets connected with this person, and they need to get everything set up. So they need a building, they need furniture, they need technology, they need security access control, they need internet, they need the whole 9 yards. And so he was able to say, all right, I got you. Here's all these people in my Firestorm group that I've been with for the last, 5 years. I've been building these relationships. I trust these people.
Wow.
We've seen deals go back and forth. Like, I got you. And granted, they were a little skeptical because they didn't know, him. And so they were like, okay, well, you give us your people, we'll find some other ones. But then each time they got an introduction to another person in that group, the other person in the group would be like, commercial real estate guy, he was awesome. I'm really happy that, he's bringing me in on this deal. By the way, here's some other people that you need to meet. And he was just like reiterating and hammering home the same people that, were introduced in the first place. So anyway, at the end of the day, I think there were 6 different Firestorm members that got a chunk of that deal. The real estate I mentioned, there's commercial furniture, there was internet connectivity with Comcast. There was, security access controls and the cameras. Low voltage cabling was in there. And then I think like a PEO company was in there. So
Powerful.
It was super powerful. And so he was able to provide a lot of value to that client. They didn't need to go through all this rigmarole with finding people and, figuring out how they were going to vet them. It was just sort of a ready-made thing for them. So tons of value, really sticky in that relationship there. And then for everybody in the Firestorm group, obviously, like, they all benefited from that. They were able to kind of not only get a deal, but back each other up and kind of refer each other and talk good about each other person in the group. So that was a huge success story, and I've seen that a few different times. That was probably the one that like had the most people involved in it, and that's how it's supposed to work, right? And then anytime that client needs something, it's like, hey, we got your back. And all right, so there's that. And then just on the personal side, I met my wife through networking. So I can trace that relationship back to that first group that I went to and made some suggestions to, how I thought they should change. But I can trace meeting her back to that group because I met there was a title person in the group who then introduced me to her brother-in-law, who then introduced me to a guy he knew that he used to work with at a previous startup. And then that dude moved to Germany. I went to Oktoberfest to go meet up with him and hang out. And then he had met my wife in the meantime. Like, she was working in Germany as well. They were coworkers in Germany. So we met at Oktoberfest at a table that she had. And
Wow.
yeah, but I can trace it back to that first group that I went to.
That's so good, man. It's funny because I talk a lot about the power of connection
Yeah.
and how so many of the best things that have happened in my life have happened because of a connection. Like, literally, the book that I wrote, The Superpower Quest, is only in this world because of connection that, I had a co-pastor named, I was a pastor for 10 years. A guy that pastored with me, his name was Manny. And we were talking one day and he introduced me to a guy named Alan Briggs. Alan Briggs had a fateful conversation with me. He's a galvanizer challenger guy, and he met with me. He's a consultant, but he met with me out of the goodness of his heart just to hang out for a minute because of Manny. And I was telling him about my book and my book idea, and he said, "Well, write it." And I think he told me this. I did this, and I think this was what he told me. Post on LinkedIn that you're going to write a book, put a date, and tag everybody and
That'll
invite
keep
them
you
to hold
accountable.
you accountable. Yeah, and literally, I have a book in the world because of a connection, right?
That's awesome.
And so you met your wife because of a connection. So I cannot highlight strongly enough how powerful connection is, especially I mean in career and in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'll say about that is, I think another thing that bothers me a little bit about the traditional approach to things is I think they're bought into this idea that connection is important, and they talk about it. But there's a sort of a shotgun approach. It's cast a wide net, and it's hey, well, you never know who the next person might know, which is true. I totally agree with that, but I can't build a system around that. I can't make a duplicatable, repeatable process hoping that, the next person might run into somebody that needs what I do, or, their cousin, third removed, whatever. Like, I need to build a system of like really amazing strategic partners that I know are, there's a high likelihood that they're talking to the types of clients that I need to meet. So, that's another thing. And, I love the connection story about my wife and how that wasn't something I planned. That was sort of a serendipitous, like, down the road, this connection turned out. But I certainly didn't say, like, I'm going to meet this person, build a relationship, and then they're going to introduce me to this person and, have that like all mapped out, which I think we can do with business stuff. I can tell you how to get to your client, and show you how to build the right relationships and do it in a very strategic, intentional, efficient way. So,
Dude, I love that. And I hear a couple words in that. So if I'm trying to kind of put that in a bottle and name it, right? There's a piece of it which I would call alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Alignment probably as a subset of intentionality, right? There's an intentional choice, like, okay, we're going to get into this relational context where we're really cheering each other on and actually care about each other's success.
Yeah.
We're going to start there. So that would be authenticity, I think. And then on top of that is intentionality. But we're not just here hanging out.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Like, we're not going to really help each other unless there's mutual understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Of each other's ideal client and what to listen for, and if I hear this thing, I know, oh, you need to talk to Chuck, right?
Yep.
Or you need to talk to Phil or whoever.
Yep. Yep.
And so then that intentionality leads to alignment in action, because now we're all like what you described. The commercial realtor comes in and says, "Oh, you should check out these 6 people," and then and they're like, "Oh, okay, they might be good, they might not." But the next person comes in, probably interviews well, right?
Yep.
Because these are quality people.
Yeah.
And is also saying, "Oh, you really need to talk to these 5 other people," saying the same thing that the first guy was saying, and on and on and on through the group until, that's a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that puts connection on steroids when you have some structure around it.
Yep. 100%.
But how do you then keep the structure from becoming transactional and reverting it back to, the thing that you wanted to get away from in the first place?
I think adding in a lot of like personal connection stuff. We have presentations that we do every week, and there's, a structured, we have 10 right now, and it kind of walks you through the relationship building process, but throwing in fun stuff, and making sure that it's not 100% business. It's like 90% business. And then we get to learn about each other's, family and hobbies and, vacations and all that kind of stuff. So there's a healthy dose, and maybe it's not 90-10. I don't know what the exact percentages is, but there's a healthy dose of that personal relationship. And that's where people become friends. It's like, we're here to do business together, but I actually like you and I want to help you. And that's where you got to get to, where, you build that relationship so people want to go out of their way to help you out. I mean, come on, like, how many real estate agents do you know? You can't just show up in a group and be like, "Oh, I'm the real estate agent and you should give me business because we're here and building a relationship." It's like, no, dude, like, I know 50 of them. Like, I'm going to give it to the one that I like the best. And then there's also a calculation. It's like, I like them, but I'm trying to build a relationship here. What is the value and what's the return and all that kind of stuff. So it's a constantly, ever evolving formula that you're, making tweaks on. And but anyway, yeah, there's a healthy dose of the personal relationship stuff that gets in there, and getting to know each other on a fun level as well. And so doing some social events, going out playing golf, doing one-on-ones, like all that kind of stuff, ski days. Like, it's not all business all the time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You believe it. You believe in this.
100%.
You really believe in this.
Yeah.
So you're just tinkering with your baby.
Yeah.
Cooking up, tweaking the recipe. Baby recipe. That's not good mixed metaphor.
I got you.
You're in the kitchen, you're experimenting, you're tweaking it because you love it and you believe in it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. This has been enlightening, actually. I was got one other tactical question. Is there exclusivity within the chapters? So it's like, can there be 10 different realtors in a chapter?
It's exclusive in the chapter. Okay. It's not in the organization. And I encourage people to connect with other folks in the same industry or different, I want to encourage connection across all chapters. But in your chapter, there's exclusivity.
Yeah, man. I think so. So there are each is almost this little tribe.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're trying to minimize friction within the tribe by not having people that hunt the exact same thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Muddying things up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Within that group, I don't want there to be any confusion about if a lead comes in, we know where to send it. And everybody's in agreement on that.
See, that's important. Yeah, that's also pretty amazing. All right. So do you have any closing wisdom? Right. So, this is you could say whatever you want now. Like we're about to be off the air, and you go do whatever you're going to do with your day. But you have any closing wisdom that you'd give to the people that are watching?
I mean, in the way of connections and relationships, like it's so important, and you've got to invest in those. And it's hard. It's you're putting yourself on the line, and you don't. It's not always going to work out, and it's not always going to be rainbows and sunshine, and it's worth it though. At the end of the day, it's worth it. And you need to go out there and find people that are trying to do business the way that you want to do business. You have alignment in core values, you have alignment in the types of clients that you're serving. And if you invest in those relationships and you really take the time to sit down and take an interest in their business and try and help them, make those deposits in that relational bank account, like that is going to come back to you tenfold. And I have zero doubt about that. So if it doesn't work, it's because you didn't take the time to figure out who the right person was to sit down and put that energy into, or you didn't give it enough time, or you didn't, really take yourself out of the equation. Because, Bob's got that saying, givers gain. And it's true. It's 100% true. Like, you need to give 10 times more and put 10 times more into the relationship than you're ever going to expect to get out of it. And it's a way of life, man. Like, it's not a business development tactic. It's, this is how I am. This is how I'm going to move through the world. And, I don't care about keeping score. I want to help other people. I want to provide value. And if you do that, turns out that it's a pretty good business development strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very, very well said. Well, thanks for joining us today, Phil. It's been awesome just hanging out with you and discussing like the deep inner workings of connection with a super connector like you who really understands it. And not only do you understand it, it's your job, your career, your company. You've sunk a lot, of your time and energy into this. So thank you, man, for hanging out.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And thanks for having me.
All right. No problem. And everybody, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Cool. Cheers.